I feel like so much of my job here on this channel is just done by remembering things that happened more than 8 days ago. I mean, honestly, how many times are we going to see the media report something that was a phenomenon before, well documented, reported sometimes by these very same media outlets, if not these very same reporters, only to a few years later report the same phenomenon, badly by the way, and pretend like it's a totally new and completely strange and odd thing. That is exactly how these recent flash mob robberies are being covered by the media. But I'm old enough to remember back more than 8 days ago when this was a phenomenon for years in this nation and it was well documented. Now, I'm not saying my memory is perfect. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to flex on all of you who don't have as good a memory as me. I'm as forgetful as the next guy. I was once inside a grocery store and I realized that I forgot my dog in the backseat of the car. So I ran out to the parking lot to check for my dog, and then I remembered I didn't own a car. So where was my dog? Please, if you find Fido, then send me messages. I really miss him. Come home, boy. Come home. Now, before I explain to you guys in great detail how these flash mob robberies have been happening in this nation for years, and more importantly, I tell you exactly who did these robberies, I want to talk about how the level of theft that we're seeing in this country is unbelievable. Some of these flash mob robberies have netted over $1 million in stolen goods. And if you think that's a great deal for those thieves, then you really should check out Keto with Justice. Keto has been in the news a lot in recent years. This is because thousands of people have reported better weight loss and better health due to the fact that they've been taking on keto. However, we on this channel have a bit of a secret weapon, something that literally nobody on planet Earth except for you listening to this right now actually know about. And that is the special keto power over at Keto with Justice. At ketowithjustice.com, we have a premium powdered version of the most ketogenic MCT oil called C8. It helps give you many of the benefits of elevated ketones without having to completely follow the rigid guidelines of the keto diet. Within weeks of taking this powder, users report 3 amazing side effects. The first is a suppression in appetite, which makes it way easier for you to lose weight. The second is more energy, so you're more emboldened to go on and take on the day. And third, users report having better mental focus. But don't take my word for it. Take Keto with Justice and test it out for yourself. Go to my custom URL, ketowithjustice.com, and you, because it's Black Friday, it's the month of November, can get a very special discount, 51% off this 60-day money-back guarantee product. What do you even have to lose even with all these great perks and a money-back guarantee and an over 50% discount? Come on, go to ketowithjustice.com. You have to admit, that transition was absolutely stunning and amazing. So I want to start off with the smallest robbery, which is about 14 people raiding a Louis Vuitton in Chicago, Illinois, and absolutely obliterating the store and walking away with $120,000 worth of merchandise.
New video today taken Wednesday about 3:30 in the afternoon. Look at the entrance to the Louis Vuitton store at Oakbrook Center. A crew of criminals, 14 suspects according to police, working together in the store and driving away in 3 vehicles.
Once they entered the store, they pulled out the garbage bags from their coats and started filling them with merchandise.
Police say they swiped about $100,000 worth of merchandise, and that's shocking for shoppers. And this isn't the only Louis Vuitton case. Another one happened last month, 30 miles from here in the northern suburbs. In that case, Northbrook police say 13 thieves and 3 getaway drivers targeted this store at Northbrook Court Mall, stealing $66,000 worth of merchandise.
Now, the reporting around this is shocking. People act like they've never seen anything like this before. They talk about how these people stole $120,000 worth of goods, and the police have no leads. They just showed up in an organized group, and it was so brazen, this level of theft in this nation. And then, of course, it happened again in California at another luxury store. I think it was actually also a Louis Vuitton and other stores in the mall. And this time they got away with $1 million worth of merchandise.
Crackdown, authorities growing increasingly concerned after a wave of what they call smash and grab robberies. Groups of people swarming stores, Nordstrom's and other high-end stores, and then making off with thousands of dollars worth of goods. Here's ABC's Kaylee Hartung with the images tonight.
Tonight, a rash of smash and grab thefts targeting retailers around the country, just as the holiday shopping season picks up. In California, the Bay Area suddenly seeing mobs of people ambushing stores.
A lot of them are going in there, grabbing as much merchandise as they can and getting away.
Over the weekend in Walnut Creek, 80 thieves storming a Nordstrom. Some even assaulting employees before they ran out with merchandise in hand to getaway cars.
Probably saw 50 to 80 people in like ski masks, crowbars, like a bunch of weapons.
And in San Francisco, more than $1 million in merchandise was stolen after as many as 100 people rushed several stores, including this Louis Vuitton.
And again, I want you to note the aftermath of the destruction of these thefts, because it's not just about taking these high-end goods, presumably to feed their starving family or to protest for racial justice. Maybe that's why the media is so confused by this, because they're seeing what they've been calling mostly peaceful protests on their TVs, but they don't know exactly what it's about, and they don't appear to be chanting anywhere near this Black Lives Matter slogans. So maybe that's why they're so confused, because they've been calling this behavior protesting for over a year. But again, just look at the destruction. What you see with all these windows smashed, these displays obliterated, is these people are having fun. They're enjoying themselves, as not only they're stealing luxury items and all these other things because they're scumbags, but they also like inflicting suffering. It's a game to them. They enjoy that destruction, the chaos, and all of that. That's why they mob up in a group. What we're seeing is mob mentality plus theft of over $1 million. And of course, there's the Nordstrom one that also happened in California, also led to over $1 million in stolen inventory, and also can be seen by the mark of the accused with all the evidence of enjoyment in this. And people report this, they're like, wow, we think this was organized, we think this was a planned thing. It's like, yeah, obviously 80 freaking people showed up at the same time to loot a store together in tandem. Do you not think that there was some organization? But it's all reported with like a level of confusion and like feigning of ignorance by all these media people, despite the fact that they've been covering these stories for years. Just in case you thought I was crazy, just in case you thought I was lying, I actually punched into the YouTube machine right here on theinternet.com and found an Inside Edition story back from 3 years ago where they're talking about what you should do if you find yourself in a flash mob robbery situation, because it was so common 3 years ago. And they talk about a theft that happened at an Apple store.
Surveillance video shows a flash mob of thieves about to strike an Apple store at a mall in Fresno, California. It took only seconds for 4 young men in hoodies to make off with $27,000 in iPhones and laptops. These frightened girls huddled together as the thieves bolted past, knocking down a Good Samaritan who tried to block the exit. Other Apple stores are also finding themselves prime targets. This Apple store in San Francisco has been hit twice. And in Kansas City, a stunned female shopper recorded a theft right before her eyes.
Now again, maybe you think that's a one-off. Maybe you think, oh, well, just because it happened once in one Apple store in Chicago back 3 years ago, that doesn't mean that this is somehow an old phenomenon. Maybe they're commenting on it because it hasn't happened anywhere else in the country or at any other point since then. Well, again, you would have to look at this ABC News segment that I found. It's on YouTube, posted 8 years ago, back in 2013, talking about the spate of flash mob robberies in the United States in cities all over. And again, notice the mark of the accused. Notice the pattern that you're not being told about by the media. Who's doing these robberies? All this stuff is important when they're trying to portray this as random instances of mass theft, even though they happen nationwide.
Heads up from police just 3 weeks before the holiday shopping season begins. They are tracking a new type of crime popping up across the country. It's called flash rob, a play on the term flash mob, but instead of a fun-loving dance, it has a vandalizing twist.
These 5 men walking into a Chicago area sports authority are about to commit the most brazen theft you may ever see. There they are, running out of the store, rolling racks full of clothing. Take another look. They're stealing racks of coats. It's over in less than 30 seconds. And they're not done. The same thieves are believed to have targeted 2 other Sports Authority stores this week alone. Police are seeing crimes like this around the country, so-called flash robs, coordinated groups of thieves who swarm stores.
We had about 15, 16 kids in the store before I locked the door. Overwhelming sensation of just not able to do anything about it.
In some cases, the theft is loud and crazy, like at this Florida Walmart. In others, it's stunningly calm. Authorities believe the trend began with teenagers stealing candy and drinks, like you see here.
Now you might be thinking to yourself, Sean, okay. It may be the thing that's a new phenomenon that also happened 3 years ago, so much so that Inside Edition did a segment on how you should survive it. And Sean, okay, it also happened 8 years ago, and it was reported in all these different major cities, but maybe that's just the extent of it. It's not like you can show me video of hundreds of people storming a Walmart all at the same time, stealing over $100,000 worth of stuff in another brazen flash mob type robbery.
Surveillance video shows the chaotic scene. Hundreds of people swarm the front of the closed Walmart, shattering the glass doors and forcing their way inside.
We believe at least 200 stormed into the Walmart, and the majority of them headed straight to the electronics section. So the most expensive items in the store is what they were after.
Many have their faces covered. Others are clearly smiling as they rush inside the store and start looting and causing damage. In the footage, you can see people grabbing televisions and trying to get into cash registers.
Approximately $116,000 worth of merchandise and damage was reported from Walmart.
Tampa 911, what is the address of your area?
We're getting braked into CVS on 30th and Fowler, right?
The sheriff's office and the Tampa Police Department are investigating more than 40 businesses that were set on fire, damaged, or burglarized during the unrest of the last 2 weeks.
Or it's not like you could show me another Apple store that was robbed by a flash mob 4 years ago in San Francisco. Again, Sean, these are all isolated instances. They're not a well-documented phenomenon. It's okay for the media to feign confusion about what's going on. I mean, it's not like there's a literal Wikipedia entry that documents cases of flash mob robberies with citations back to 2011, which, if you guys are scoring at home, the earliest I've given you so far is all the way back in 2013. And look at the cities: Chicago, Houston, all the same cities that we're talking about. This event happens over and over again, year after year in this nation, and we always act surprised. We always pretend like it's not a thing. And then people start talking about who's committing the crimes. They start talking about the characterization of the mobs, how these mobs of people that are robbing these stores in large groups and having fun, raining terror on these businesses, never appear to be mobs of Japanese young people, or Japanese elderly people, or Korean young people, or Canadians, or Germans. It always seems to be younger black people participating in this flash robberies. And every time this gets brought up, I know what you guys are thinking, the word racism gets thrown around. That's the response to this. So we also have articles, again, about this new phenomenon that nobody seems to remember except for me, about how the term flash mob is actually a racist dog whistle, or it's a racist term, or it's not happening, or similar. We've already had this battle before. We've already talked about flash robberies that stole hundreds of thousands, up to millions, did damages, the whole 9 yards, and everybody's pretending, even on Twitter, like it's a new phenomenon. It's not new. It's been happening for a long time. Colin Flaherty released a book called White Girl Bleed a Lot in 2011. You know what there's a chapter on? Flash mob robberies. Obviously, if this came out in 2011, this was written about flash mob robbery instances from all the way before then. This is a well-documented phenomenon. Just go look on the internet. Set your search history on Google News to more than 8 days ago, and you will see these repeated instances of flash mob robbery done by young black people, and people still feigning confusion. It's this and the knockout game that the media can never conveniently seem to remember. They always talk about how, oh, it's alleged that this is a phenomenon that's happening nationwide. They feign confusion. They don't talk about it. This is what's happening. Pay attention. Remember what happened. Look at all these videos. Think about the dates that I gave you associated with these videos. Acknowledge the fact that all the citations are from over a decade ago, and realize that this is not new. It's not interesting. It's not something atypical. It's something that we ignore because of the people who are perpetrating the crimes. Look, I know it's kind of played out to flip the races and ask yourself what the response would be, but let's go down the road of what Devin Tracy calls the zebra challenge and ask ourselves how the media would be reacting if consistently for decades, groups of between 14 to 200 white men were storming stores and robbing everything that's electronic, luxury items, etc., what they would react to that with. They would say, oh my god, this is flash robbery, white privilege, they're so privileged, they don't even think they have to pay at the store. What about the people of color employees that work there? nobody would be downplaying it, nobody would be ignoring it, nobody would eventually write these think pieces about how noticing what's going on in our country in our retailer stores is actually indicative of white supremacy. The real problem isn't the flash mob robberies. The real problem isn't cities that don't prosecute these criminals, isn't police departments that are too afraid to identify who's committing these crimes to talk about it openly, thus allowing it to continue and the cycle to repeat year after year. The real problem is that you can see the videos. The real problem is that you can leave comments under the videos. The real problem is that when the media feigns confusion, you guys can leave comments and tweet them and say, hey, you covered this exact same story a few years ago, same group of people, and you ignored the key component of it even then. It's not shocking. It's not new. I know you guys want me to talk about how San Fran isn't prosecuting any of these people, but honestly, and Nuance Bro said this in his recent video, this has nothing to do with the $950 shoplifting limit. They stole over 120 grand worth of luxury handbags. In some of these robberies, they stole over $1 million worth of merchandise. Chesa Boudin is not interested in prosecuting anybody, so that vote on shoplifting, while it might be more impactful for Walgreens or CVS and all these other locations that are closing down, this is just general Chesa Boudin being weak, being a coward, and not wanting to prosecute anybody for crime. Remember, Chesa Boudin's father was involved in the murder of a cop. He's a domestic terrorist. He was a part of the Weather Underground group. Chesa Boudin was raised by Bill Ayers. I'm not joking. This is a real thing. So what are we even talking about? What do we expect from them? All these DAs are cowardly. All the people who won't acknowledge what's going on are cowardly. And everybody who pretends or acts like, or maybe actually legitimately has been gaslit into believing that this is a new stunning phenomenon, I feel bad for you. Remember things that happened more than 8 days ago. I'm sure you can do it. Remember, just a week plus 1 day. If you can remember that, then you should be solid on this story. But hey, those are just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. I know this was a little bit of a rant, but again, want to know what you guys think. If you liked the video, you can show me by leaving a like. You can subscribe for more content. You can follow me on my social medias. They are linked in the description. Now I want you to follow me on Instagram because it's new. Till next time.